welcome to the garden. Today I'm fixing a problem that we have out in the compost pile. Last year, some roots found their way in, and this year they've really taken over. They've spread throughout the entire pile. You can see big clusters of roots running all the way through the compost, and this is stealing our nutrients. And this is from some tree or shrub nearby. Now it might not be all bad. Roots can actually bring in beneficial bacteria. They have a symbiotic relationship where they provide moisture and shelter for the bacteria, and then the bacteria provide the tree with nutrients. Oof. Makes it difficult to turn over as well. Look at all these roots, oh my gosh. Some of them are actually pretty big. Look at that, that's huge. And these are coming up from the drainage holes down at the bottom. But we really need those to filter out excess moisture. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just make a space for our sifter. This is a really simple sifter. I built the frame out of some deck spindles, and then I've just covered it over with hardware cloth. And I'll lean it up at about a 45-degree angle. And that way, once we take a scoop of our compost, all the fine finished material falls through, and the larger material, and in this case our roots, are going to be left on the outside. And then I just fluff the material against it. So you can see what's left over. A lot of roots, but also leaves that haven't finished composting yet, sticks, bits of food scraps that are too large to fall through the cracks. And normally I would throw this back onto the compost heap, but I actually want to dig down to the bottom and see what's going on. So I'm going to use our tumblers. These were how we started composting, but lately I just use them for storage. But the real benefit here is that they're raised off of the ground. And this allows us to spin the pile like this. It's supposed to be a really easy way to turn the pile over. But when it becomes pretty heavy and wet, it can be kind of a mess. So I just use them to store my finished compost. But this time, we're just going to store our unfinished material. That way, we can kind of air out the compost pile and let those roots die off until we can get it under control. And our finished material is going to be stored in our other tumbler. That way we'll keep it separate and it'll be ready to use whenever we need it. So we'll just repeat this process until we've sifted the entire compost pile. We're going all the way to the bottom today. While we're at it, we can check up on our logs. You know, some of these are getting pretty soft. Once they get soft enough to break down, we can actually run them through the sifter too. Now that we're getting down towards the bottom of the pile, we can really see the root of the problem. Ba-dum-bum. Look at the swath of roots. Oh, holy cow. That is insane. So I need to break this up because there's some good finished compost kind of intertwined amongst these roots. Now, even if some of the nutrients have been sapped out, we still have what's called humus. It's just that decomposed organic material. Like, you can think of it as like a rotten log. This is where it entered the pile. So it shot up through one of those drainage holes and it completely filled the hole. That's about the diameter of the drain holes. The roots will eventually find their way in anytime there's a hole like this big anchor spot or these smaller drain holes. So I'm going to try to pull them out, and I'm actually going to not use this area of the compost for a while. So in the end, I've got a full tumbler of finished compost, a full tumbler of unfinished compost, and this massive mound of fine sifted compost. And this is actually ready to go onto the garden. Pull any final roots that I see and just kind of clean the bottom a little bit, and then I'm going to use this to store dried leaves. And as we progress through autumn, I'm just going to keep filling this up with dried leaves until it's overflowing. That way it'll stay fairly dry and devoid of nutrients, because when it's wet and there's lots of nutrition, the roots are just going to spread like crazy. So that's how we got into this scenario, and dried leaves is how we're going to get out of it. We actually got some of the best, finest finished compost I've ever seen. It's almost like sand. It's just amazing. So I think the roots actually brought in some more beneficial bacteria. So it's not all bad. I hope you enjoyed this update on our compost problem that's now fixed, and maybe got some ideas for your garden. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.